testing. Testing, 1, 2, test, 1, 2.
I mean, I don't.
Testing. Alright, let me make sure my live stream is alright. Everything sounds okay. I'm doing a live review today. I want to make sure everything is coming through okay. Alright, I think it's going to do it. Hello everyone, this is Venom with We Have Landed Entertainment, and today we're going over the long-awaited Outriders review. Okay, so in the background I've got some Outriders playing. That's going to be playing throughout the whole time. You guys can kind of see me go through a couple expeditions, but I've got a lot to say about Outriders. And not all of it good. In fact, we're going to start off with, we're going to go ahead and knock out some of the big things out of the way. First off, Outriders released on April 1st. It's been, 19 days, damn near, 18 days, almost 19 days since the game's been out. Almost 3 weeks. And I'm going to say off the bat that Outriders, when the game works, it is good. Note that I said when the game works. So I gotta make sure everything's coming through okay. I've had to go through a lot of different viewpoints when playing this game. I've had to go through a lot of different, not necessarily just viewpoints, but I've had to really kind of step back and really objectively look at the game and look at how I look at, or really kind of go over how I look at all games when reviewing this. And the way I review games is the same way I would review any other product. So, for example, if I'm buying a car, or if I'm going and buying a loaf of bread, or buying a book, or whatever I'm spending money on, I'm going to judge all those products the same. It doesn't really matter if it's a video game or not. And I think there's a lot of things that have been happening in video games here the last, few years, maybe even decade or so, and we've really been kind of let slip, and we've been really making excuses for, and I don't think those really fly. Especially since video games, they're expensive to buy. For me, my chief source of entertainment. For something that takes up so much of my time, I want it to actually be good. Does that make any sense? Give me just a second. Let me make sure that the actual game volume isn't too loud. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge. Where is the volume on here? We go. There we go. So, first things first. When Outriders came out, well, not even before that, Outriders, of course, is a third-person looter shooter that came out on April 1st. It's by the studio People Can Fly, and from Square Enix, okay? So, Square Enix, I believe, is the producer of the studio, is People Can Fly. All that stuff out of the way, it is a third-person looter shooter that is always online, but it's not a live service game. So it's not supposed to be like Destiny or Destiny 2 where you're going to be playing it for years on end. It's something to where you play through the story, you do the in-game content, and you're done. Now there are things to grind out. There are different armor sets and different weapons and different skills and different in-game milestones you can hit. But for the most part, it's never supposed to have been a Destiny 2 or an Anthem or anything along that arena. Which brings us to our first problem, and this is from day one, and it's kind of been questioned from the get-go, and that is, for a game that's really just kind of a single-player experience, it's got some multiplayer aspects to it. You can play multiplayer with your friends, even though it's really meant to be played, for the most part, first player. Again, not a live service. This is not something you can really compare to Destiny, even though people are going to do so, myself included. Even though that comparison is made, it's not what it's meant to be. It's been billed as pretty much a single player experience for the most part with multiplayer aspects. You got to keep that in mind when going through this. This is not a live service game that we're used to. I know that's been kind of really big in the media and really big in gaming here recently. All that being said, for a game that's supposed to not be a live service and is really supposed to be a single player experience, for some reason the game is online only. And I'm not talking, like cloud saves or anything. I'm talking if the servers are down or you don't have internet, you cannot play this game. This is strictly 100% online only. They've got some pretty strenuous anti-cheat going on. Some funny anti-cheat actually, if you actually get caught cheating, i.e. hacking the game or cheating or any kind of exploits that they determine to be cheating, they actually watermark the game and you can't even play with other people that have cheated. Although again, for a single player game, what does it really matter? But online only is kind of it's going to be the start and it's going to be one of the main issues with this game. You see, from day one, I tried to play this game like the minute that it came out and the day one patch was done. And unfortunately, I was not able to do so. I mean, the servers even today are a buggy mess. Even if you connect to somebody, which don't get me wrong, connecting to somebody is not a problem. However, the lag is so insane, you can't even play with other people unless you're like in your region or on your server. It's bad enough actually. There's still a bug with the main class I play with, the Trickster. Its bread and butter move, the Cyclone Slice, the one going on in the background right now. If that move for some reason gets interrupted or the animation gets interrupted in multiplayer, if you're not the host, it bugs your character out for the rest of the expedition. You can barely walk. It's a huge bug, and as of right now, I don't know if it's been fixed or not. Again, it may have been. I doubt it, but we'll see. I haven't really done a whole lot of multiplayer because, along with not being able to, have real stable multiplayer or stable server connection, there's also been a bug going on since actually the demo where it's been wiping people's inventories. I'm talking like complete inventory wipes. As of right now, the people can fly are kind of struggling to. They've got plans to restore those inventories. As of right now, we still don't have a date for it. They've been talking about it quite a bit. We're waiting for those inventories to be restored. In the meantime, those characters that have their inventories wiped, you can't even play on. But as of right now, I mean, for a looter shooter, the fact that your inventory can be wiped just from playing multiplayer, that's unacceptable. Again, that's a bug just from multiplayer. So inventory wipes, we've got unstable multiplayer. Wasn't even able to play for most of the first day. In fact, a lot of the people that are watching, you saw me try to play on day one, and I literally could not connect to the servers. Even worse than that, even when I did connect, the game would crash constantly. It was so bad that on the first day when I was trying to stream it, I was so embarrassed it was crashing so much. I was like, I can't do this. At first, I thought it was me and my computer. Don't get me wrong, my computer's a bit older. I've kind of put it together myself, but it should still run this, and it does run this, as you can see in the background, without a problem. It turns out that there were settings and there were things that were changed from the demo that was making it run much, much worse. Even today, almost 3 weeks later, the game still crashes every time I play it. I mean, it's not uncommon to where if I'm playing the game, say, for 4 or 5 hours, and I'm having to reload the game 4 or 5 times because the game has crashed. And it's not just me playing online, it's playing single player as well. You can kind of tell when the game's about to crash because it starts to chug along, or you kind of get that weird feeling it's going to crash after a long cutscene, and it does. And that's, again, after the demo and after 3 weeks of being out. That's not acceptable for a game. So as of right now, there are really 2 camps. Actually, there's 3 camps for this game. There are people that are just defending it no matter what. They're saying, hey, whatever, it's got some bugs, let them fix it. Don't judge the game until the game has been fully fixed. And I'm not in that camp. I think that's quite honestly bullshit. Especially since we had a demo for about a month that we were actually able to play, and they were able to hammer out some of these supposed bugs before the game released. And the reason I say that is, again, because I have to look at games like I do any other product that I buy. Again, if this was a car, you can't really tell me that a car that is exploding or has tires popping or has an engine that's smoking every 2 minutes, that you can't judge it off of its day one release because, hey, they need to work out the bugs. That's not how any other product on Earth works. Or imagine going to the movie theater and, every 20 minutes the movie itself skips, or there are whole scenes that are gone. Or, you get 20 minutes in the movie and the whole thing restarts. You'd be pissed. You want your money back. You wouldn't want to watch it again. I mean, imagine buying a book and half the pages are missing. That's unacceptable for any other product, but for some reason, games, a lot of people are trying to defend that. I can't justify defending that for a $60 game, or really any game, whatever the price point may be. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And unfortunately, to this day, Outriders still does not work correctly. And that's not to say that I have not played the crap out of it. I mean, I think I've got like 200 hours in the game. I still enjoy it when it does work, but unfortunately, it doesn't work a lot more than it actually does. That's not even getting into the core mechanics of the game, what I thought about the story. This is just flat out the product itself does not work correctly. Now, I will admit there are probably some issues that are strictly because of my internet. Again, I have great internet, so I mean, I'm not sure what those could potentially be. I mean, I can connect to my friends without a problem. I don't have any other issues with any other kind of, excuse me, multiplayer game or any other. I mean, as long as I'm in range and I've got signal, there's not an issue for anything else. So I mean, this is definitely just the game itself. Sorry, let me get a sip of coffee here. But I mean, this comes down to a product that's just not working the way it's supposed to. So again, the servers have been crazy for the first week. Again, they've been better the last couple of weeks. We haven't had too many issues with crossplay. They've apparently, I say apparently because this isn't the first time they supposedly fixed the inventory wiping bug. We'll see if that's actually fixed or not. I haven't heard any more instances of people's inventories being wiped since they said they fixed it, but I also haven't paid too much attention because honestly, if they're going to wipe my inventory for playing the damn game, I'm just not going to play the game, so I haven't played it nearly as much. But it comes down to I paid for a game that I'm unable to play a good portion of the time or does not work a good portion of the time. It released in a broken state. It doesn't matter how much you like the game when it's working or not. The game released, if I was going to give it an official review right now, it would be broken. That's what it was. I couldn't give a 1 through 10 or, hey, buy it, don't buy it. The game is still broken. It's just flat out. And it's curious that it's broken in ways that it doesn't need to be. This is supposed to be a single player experience, but again, it's online only. I mean, they're taking steps as far as like anti-cheat that you would see in games like Destiny or that, Destiny should have. But for some reason, they're all piled into this single player game where it really doesn't matter if you cheat or not. I mean, most people don't really care, and even if you do cheat, you're not really getting much over on anybody anyway. There's no PvP. All you're really doing is fighting, hordes of enemies, the same content over and over again. You're not really getting much out of it. So even if you were to cheat, you're not really hurting yourself. And now that I really think about it and I've played the whole game, even the steps they would take for the cheaters, giving them that watermark that says cheater on it or whatnot, does it really matter? I mean, who really cares in a single player game? So, yeah, I don't understand those decisions, and quite a few other people don't either. I mean, one of the main things people are asking for this game is an offline mode. I think that would be awesome to have, honestly, and I would love to play an offline mode. I bet it would crash a lot less. I bet there'd be a lot less issues, but somehow I doubt we ever get it. So yeah, I mean, so those were the bugs. Some of the steps that the developers have taken since release have been questionable at best. One thing that's been said a lot about a lot of companies when there's a new game release, there's almost always bugs, first off. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last few games that I really played, and I don't know if it's just my luck or I just happen to choose games that are really crappy like that, but I mean, Diablo 3, Destiny 2, I mean, Outriders, trying to think of what else I was playing before that, but it seems like every game I play, the opening days or opening weeks are just shitty as hell. One thing people keep saying about People Can Fly, the studio behind this game, is that they've been paying attention and communicating with their players. You hear that phrase a lot about games, especially with smaller studios. They may be communicating with players, but I'm wondering if they're really hearing the players. It's one thing to say that they're listening. It's one thing to say that they're paying attention, but are they actually making decisions that the players want or that would be to our benefit? And I'm give all that long diatribe to say this. Before the game was even out by a week, they had already nerfed one of the only viable classes or viable strategies for in-game into the ground. Most people that play this already know this already, but the twisted rounds or the rounds builds, the gun builds got nerfed pretty hard. There's an issue right now with the in-game. It is all basically time attack mode. There's no kind of aggro in the game. There's no real horde mode. Every part of the end game is just try to get through it as fast as possible. Um, that means one thing. That means damage as quick as possible. So everyone's build is glass cannons, and if you don't have a glass cannon maximum DPS gun build, you're basically kicked from parties. The poor Devastators, they don't. I mean, they're the tanks. They've been getting kicked from parties left and right, and unfortunately, anomaly builds are basically power builds. Also haven't had much of a place in the end game until recently, anyway, because people just wanted to try to get to the end game as quick as possible. They wanted to try to get gold. And again, the only way to do that is to try to get the absolute max DPS you can out of your character, and that was the gun builds. So that already took out one whole class as it was, and then only gave one build. Basically, every build was the exact same. Get the most you can out of your gun, go through as fast as you can, and that was it. That was boring for a lot of people. Personally, I hate gun builds. I use an anomaly build myself. I'm able to do a lot of the end game by myself to challenge tier 15, the maximum there is. But keep in mind, at this point where YouTubers and myself, they're trying to speed run the end game, at Challenge Tier 15, a lot of people still hadn't even beaten the main game yet. The developers were balancing the game around what they're seeing YouTubers do or what they're seeing like the top tier players do as far as speed running. A lot of people can't even get past the first challenge tier yet by themselves, and they're already rebalancing and nerfing things into the ground when they hadn't even had a chance to get to that point yet. So that was one issue. The other one is just nerfing things in general in any game is never a good idea for the most part. Unless something is truly broken, and I mean broken, not just overpowered, but truly broken, there's no reason to nerf something versus making everything else better. It's not like they increased anomaly power, which is hard to do, so it would be on par with guns. They just nerfed guns. They didn't bother to make anomaly power better. They just made guns worse. It's still the most powerful build, but they didn't actually open up any other builds. That's a problem in a lot of games. Instead of trying to make other things viable, instead of trying to actually make them more powerful, make them more fun to use, they just nerf whatever the most powerful thing is, don't give it any more thought, and then wait to see what the next most powerful thing is and nerf it again. It's a pretty predetermined pattern that happens in a lot of games. I mean, again, this is Outriders is a prime example now. Destiny 2's had that same issue. Warframe has had that issue for years and years. Instead of making something better, they just nerf it instead. Many, and I'll be honest, is because nerfing something is much less work than trying to make everything else better. That's all it is. And again, people are pretty upset about that. And it's not so much that it was a nerf. Don't get me wrong. Nerfs are a problem with any game. It's the fact that seems like this was done, and it was only done around, again, the 1 to 5% of players that are already speed running the end game. It's not a good idea to do, but people can fly did it anyway, or I don't know if it was on them or it was on Square Enix, but regardless, it was done, and nothing's been done to boost up the other classes yet either. There hadn't been any new content. Again, the game's not even a month old yet, but they've already got nerfs. They still got game-breaking bugs. Today, the game crashed on me. 3 weeks later, and we've still got these same issues. And that's not to mention just the regular quest bug fixes. I can understand certain progression fixes, like, certain quests having weird things you do, like if you do certain quest steps out of order, how it can potentially break games. I can completely understand stuff like that, especially with a game like, say Skyrim. This game itself, Outriders, it's not really too big, so I can't see how there should be too many game-breaking bugs, but hey, shit happens. You never know. Having a million people play your game and bug test it is going to be a lot more efficient than having, 10 people do it. So they're going to find some stuff your small team can't. So I understand that. But some of these other things, like, again, the game crashing so often, the online not working. It's been years now whenever a game is released that's online only. For some reason, we're still saying, you know what, it's not a big deal that the people can't play the game that they've wanted to or that they've been waiting for on week 1 because the servers are so overloaded. I can understand that you're not necessarily going to have a million players playing concurrently every single day, but by now I would think we would be able to rectify those day 1, week 1 issues of people not being able to get on. That leaves a bad taste in the players' mouths, and frankly, it's quite annoying. How many people never came back to the game because they couldn't get in day 1? How many people keep quitting because the game keeps crashing on them? How many people quit because their inventories got wiped? Unfortunately, again, while Outriders works, it's a fun game, it doesn't work more. I haven't had a day go by where it hadn't been some kind of catastrophic failure. Whether that be a crash, whether that be some kind of server issue, or whether that be a bug in the game. And this game is not that big, to be honest with you. I mean, 40 hours tops, and that's if you're doing everything. I mean, it's not that big of a game. Yet you're having issues that are beyond like Skyrim level issues for the most part. I mean, these are issues you'd see with maybe Bethesda. So, unfortunately, I mean, if I had to give a recommendation, I can't recommend the game. All I can say is that the game is still broken. I can say when it does work, it is fun. Unfortunately, there's not really too much of a difference between the classes right now. I mean, I use a Trickster. I mean, that's probably the only real difference because it's a more melee class than the other two that are DPS. And again, unfortunately, the Devastator right now is kind of screwed because it doesn't really have a damage class. Now, people are building more around anomaly builds now, so I mean, that's coming out a bit more now, but gun builds are still kind of the way to go. And I mean, I use a Trickster, it's more of a melee build. The others are all range type builds, which, you know, works pretty good with the guns, but again, every day something terrible happens in this game. So unfortunately right now, again, I can't recommend it. I mean, if you don't mind the bugs, if you don't mind the server instability, I mean, you may not even be able to play with your friends. Again, I mentioned before the Trickster had a devastating bug when you're online. If its attack is interrupted, you're rubber banding the entire rest of the match, and that's not good. So yeah, right now I cannot actually give a recommendation for Outriders. Again, that's not to say I don't play it. I don't find it fun. I do find it fun. I do still play it every day. I will probably be done with it fairly soon. I mean, there's only so much. Again, it's not Destiny. There's only so much you can do in the game, and only so much grinding you can do until some new content comes out. But I mean, I'll definitely get my money's worth out of it. But it has not been. I think I probably could have used that money to buy other more fun games, which is what I'm wanting to do. I mean, it just wasn't ready for release, and honestly, I think even if this game had, you know, another 6 months, it still probably wouldn't have been ready for release. I think some of these issues are just so deep-rooted and so big that they wouldn't have been discovered until we had a million players trying to log on or so many people were trying to play at the same time. I don't think some of these issues would have been discovered until then. And a lot of these things, like the balance changes, the nerfs, I mean, again, it doesn't matter when they release it, that probably would have still happened. So, unfortunately, I'd have to give this rating. My official rating for this game is broken. That means I can't actually say good or bad. I can only say what I do, which, again, I'm playing it, but it is still broken. There's no real ifs, ands, or buts about it. Hopefully they can get some more things fixed here in the upcoming weeks. I mean, put it this way, the game's been bad enough that they're actually giving, you know, thank you packages for the players that have played the game from the beginning or that have bought it from the beginning because they know just how buggy the damn game has been. So, unfortunately, that is my Outriders review. It's not a good one. It's something that I'm finding more and more lately with games that have come out is that, unfortunately, I can't give good reviews for them. And again, I don't know if it's just the kind of games I play or if it's games in general, but they're coming more and more out broken and buggy, and it's more and more predictable. Cyberpunk 2077, that was the other one I was thinking about. And again, this is kind of me going off on another rant, but this is just another big game that was that was released that I played on day one. Again, a buggy mess. Now, I had a lot less bugs than other people did, but a buggy, laggy mess that luckily I had it on PC. I could play it, but people on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, I mean, you guys kind of got screwed. But that's another one. These games constantly come out. It doesn't matter if they thought the game would be big or not, or how many people they thought would play it. I mean, that doesn't really change the issues in the game. I mean, in Cyberpunk's case, it was even worse because, I mean, honestly, I didn't care about Cyberpunk until about the week or so before it came out. Then I kind of got interested in it. I never really get too hyped up about a game for too long because that's exhausting. But, you know, that week or month before it comes out, that's when I start getting excited for a game. So, I mean, we all know what happened with Cyberpunk. They're still trying to fix that game. Unfortunately, Outriders, I'd say, if you're interested in playing it, I'd probably give it another month or so before they actually fix the major problems in it. By then, they may have some new content for it as well. I don't know if they would have fix most of the bugs in it when the content comes out or not. I mean, the new content might be bugged out too, who knows, but as of right now, unfortunately, I cannot recommend playing it unless you're fine, one, just playing solo. Again, don't expect to be able to play with your friends all that much or well. And then two, as long as you don't mind the bugs, and you should be okay. But if you're alright past that, then I'd say yeah. I mean, when the game is actually working, it is fun. It is what is advertised. I enjoyed it. But there's no getting past it. The game is still broken. So that's all I got for you guys for today. Like I said, that's been my Outriders review. I'll probably try to do that stuff a lot more often just because trying to script it out takes too long, and if I just have my key points in front of me, that helps. So thank you all for coming by, and I will see you guys later. I'll probably be doing some How to Cut Below Zero full playthrough of that here soon. So I'm playing it right now. Once I get through it, I'll probably go ahead and do something in May and do a full playthrough for you guys from start to finish. So past that, I will see you guys tomorrow.